Welcome to Season 2, Episode 10 of the So Spurs podcast, where today we are... I don't really know, words can't do it justice how I'm feeling right now after that late win, but we have a special guest of us today. We have Dan from A Bit Spursy is the name of his podcast. You'll find him on YouTube and on Twitter, and yeah, really, really enjoy his show. And Dan, it's great to have you on. How are you?
No, thank you guys for having me. No, it's great to be here. I'm still feeling a little bit out of it today because I found it very, very hard to sleep after last night's game. So I think I managed to get like about 3 hours sleep and still living off the euphoria from it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think about 3 a.m. I was rewatching Match of the Day over and over again on iPlayer on my phone, to the point my wife moved into the room next door because the light was keeping her awake. But Sai, how are you feeling? You returned from the ground. You're back in Basel.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I'm over the moon, top of the world, whatever you want to use, mate. But yeah, that made the 18-hour round trip way worthwhile, mate.
Did you stay for the after party as well on the ground?
A little bit. I was touch and go whether I was going to make it back to get the flight, actually, because I was filming it and thinking I can't leave. But yeah, the flight was delayed by 20 minutes, so I got there by the skin of my teeth in the end.
Oh, well, yeah, it would have been worth missing your flight for, even if you had, I think.
Yeah, indeed.
And Johnny, how about you? You were similar to Sai, right? You had to catch a flight, but did you get any of the aftermath?
No, I wasn't in a massive rush to leave the ground, so it was really nice to stay to the end and soaked up the atmosphere of the celebrations. So that was really good. And yeah, wow, what a finish. Amazing day. Definitely worth it. And certainly numbs any kind of effect of Ryanair delays on the way back. But yeah, incredible day.
Good. And Stu, tell us a bit about where you were watching the game as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was watching it at home because I just finished my my Italian football fantasy auction and didn't have enough time to get down to the pub. But I was watching it in my room on my own, just a cat getting, a little anxious at me shouting at the TV, etc. But what a game. I just have to give a shout out to my friend Christian that I was chatting with during the game. And he was like, when Richie came on, he's like, I want Richie to get it, and I know we're going to win this game. So he got it absolutely spot on. So shout out to Christian.
Nice one, Christian.
And Dan, you said you celebrated the winner by throwing your laptop across the room or something?
Yeah, accidentally, because it would have been after 2 a.m. here, and I didn't know how to celebrate without making too much noise and waking up our little toddler and my wife as well. So I think I just I went into a bit of a shock, and the laptop just went, and I was worried for a second there, but I didn't check on it for about 5 minutes. So it was just this weird sort of euphoric state that I was in, but it was incredible.
Well, the confession my side to the listeners is that although I was at the ground, I missed both the goals. Massive karma. They did have a duty. No, I don't want to call it duty, but I was traveling with someone who is not so mobile, let's say, and we needed to make sure they got out before the crowds engulfed everything. And yeah, so we left the ground, and I just heard everyone going nuts. And then the second time I heard the roar, I just couldn't believe it. It wasn't quite as good celebrating on the high road with two other people jumping up and down, punching the air. But that's how I remember it. No idea who had scored it. I was just like, please be Richarlison. We need it to be Richarlison. Yeah. And it kind of was. He scored the last one as well. So, I got the assist. So, yeah. But, interested to get all of your guys' thoughts on the game. Like, did it need to get to that point of, needing that late winner? I'd always rather win that way because that's what football's all about. But go on, Sai, and I'll start with you and Johnny. But Sai, what about you as you were at the ground?
Yeah, I mean... always lovely to win like that, and for Richie to get the header and the assist. Well, what an end of a week for him. And I think actually when you're in a transitional phase like we are, I think winning like that, playing like that, and not quite getting what you need from the game, you learn a lot about the team. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about how the manager wants to behave as well. If we'd have gone out there and strolled to a 3-0 win, I don't think that would have been great, don't get me wrong, but you don't learn a lot about the team. The team comes together more when you have results like this. And you saw that at the end where actually for about 5 minutes afterwards, nobody left their seats. Everybody was still in the ground and singing. The players were coming up to the end and they were pushing Richie up front so that he got all the plaudits from the South Stand. It was just, it just feels like there's a groundswell of something happening here. should it have got to that point? No, with 28 shots, I don't think it should have got to that point, and we were a little bit wasteful in front of goal, and we snatched at a few chances, I think. But overall, again, we're seeing the type of play that we like. It's aggressive. We're winning the ball back. Sarr was immense in terms of ball recovery again, as was Udogie. So yeah, but when Kulu smashed that goal in, oh my goodness, the place just fucking erupted, mate.
Unbelievable. Limbs everywhere is the expression, isn't it? Everyone uses these days.
Yeah.
Did you see when Sheffield United scored their first goal? Did you see the guy fall off the top of the stand and go rolling down the pride flag? It's just this big geezer with his top off, classic stereotypical football fan, overweight, tops off, and you just see him going, whoa, just rolling down, celebrating. I don't know what happened to him afterwards, but if you watch the goal back on the Tottenham replay of it on YouTube, when they score, look at the pride flag in the background, you just see this big fella just rolling down there. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's so weird. Incredible. It's just so football. And there's also loads of videos going around of Sheffield United fans and Spurs fans sparking each other out at the train station, arguing over the extra time. But we'll get that one later. Johnny, you were at the ground as well in the East stand, weren't you, as well, like Sai? What was your perspective on the game?
It's kind of funny because, like, now I'm blessed to be able to go to nearly every home game. You kind of wouldn't pick out Sheffield United at home as being a standout match, but like, obviously, due to the way that it finished, for me, it was like probably one of my favourite Spurs games I've ever been to. It was an incredibly dramatic finale, but I think that I think it just sort of cements the impact that Postecoglou is having in such a short period of time. We've obviously got a much younger squad. The fitness of the players is incredible. The patience of the players. And the supporters. So I think that obviously I've switched from west to east, and there's a massive difference anyway, and there would have been a big difference last year, even with the football we had last year. But the supporters were just still positive all the way through, even when we were losing 1-0 on the 98th minute. Like, there was still this sort of feeling that, well, we're still not done, and this whole Ange we never stop thing, it is really embedding in not just the players, but it's also there with the fans, which I think Ange was paying tribute to afterwards. He was talking about the energy that the supporters were giving to the players as well, which I think is absolutely true, and also the fact that we're bringing players off the bench who really made a difference. So clearly Richarlison's the one that gets most of the attention, which is fantastic. But clearly the corner from Perisic that led to his equaliser, and then before that, Brennan Johnson came on, the offside goal. But like that's so encouraging for us to see as well. His pace, his composure, and for me, like, it was just like it is something I don't think I'm going to forget in a long time. That as Sai was saying, the just outpouring of emotion when we scored that winning goal, and it was absolute carnage. And my son, who I was with, Kieran, he's like not one to be going mental, but he was going completely mental as well. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. I'm just so happy because I just think Ange deserves so much credit for what he's done. Like,
he's the man.
Think about last year. We've gone on 1-0 down against a low block team, and it's 98 minutes. Imagine like last year. What a change!
I've never seen this level of love for even Pochettino at the peak. Like, you wouldn't have an Argentinian sculpture of some kind behind your left shoulder, Johnny, when we had Poch, but you've got a kangaroo there. I think it kind of sums it up at the moment. And Dan, all the way in Melbourne. Like, I also want to ask you a bit about like you and your relationship with Postecoglou, because like, have you always followed him? Am I just stereotyping that because you're over in Australia? Was it like this? Oh my God, I'm so excited to have an Australian manager coming in and managing Spurs as a Spurs fan. What's the history with you and Postecoglou as well, and supporting Spurs?
Yeah, I think a lot of fans in Australia have followed Postecoglou in some way or another, because he's managed a few clubs in the A-League here, which has definitely dipped a lot in quality, but he's won titles there. I think when he went over to Japan, maybe we not lost track of him. We knew where he was, but probably didn't follow quite as like as much as we did previously, like when he was here with the national team and things like that. But I think that him going around, ending up at Celtic, that seemed like the stepping stone of maybe things to come. So I think that was the move that made, it got people sort of it was on our radar again of like, all right, maybe he is actually going to make it to sort of the top level. And I think there was a lot of excitement when Ange was, was in the ring for a possibility here. And it was interesting seeing on Twitter, like, a lot of the reactions of like, no to Ange, get him out, no. And I think in Australia, we're just like, oh, hey, back up, hey, give us something here. Like, let us have something, because we never get any managers at the top level ever. And so I think, when he came in, like, just a lot of excitement and probably a lot of disbelief that it actually had happened too. And it seemed like, just even now, I still can't believe just looking and seeing Ange chatting and like, I love how he holds himself in his press conferences, in the post-match interviews, everything like that. Like, it just seems like, I don't know, the first time in a while we've just got an actual human as a manager, instead of just some, like either just media-trained robot or someone who's just pointing the finger everywhere else. Like, it's I love it's interesting watching his press conferences now, and you're watching it because you're like, it's someone that you like seeing speak. Whereas I feel like over the last couple of years, it was like, oh God, what's like Conte said about us now? Like, how is he said we're shit this week? Like, what's going on? Like,
how cryptic can he be this week?
Literally being managed by someone who hates us. For Jose and for Conte, it's like, huh? It was pretty, But and in terms of the game itself, Dan, what did you make of it, and what were your thoughts on the performance?
I usually am relatively positive, and I think that is because when we do watch games here, it is in the middle of the night. So if we start getting like too upset with various things, it's like a very weird state to be like upset by yourself at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. I think you've got to kind of like, maintain it a little bit. But I was getting quite frustrated based on how the game went, because I felt like, from watching at home, the officiating, and I don't just want to blame the officiating for everything, but that seemed pretty abysmal. And that's the opinion we like got from the coverage. So that was getting me quite disappointed, because I was like, we can't lose this game in this manner. Like, if they pulled out a worldie, or if they pulled out something and they just defended really well and that was it, fine. But when you see like the lack of like penalty calls and all that sort of stuff, the time wasting, all these sorts of things, it just felt like there's no way that the football gods can let us lose this game, because it just felt so dirty in how it was, how it was happening. And I saw, is it here? What's it? Heckingbottom. I saw his comments after the game, where he was saying like, basically like, well, we've been training all week to set up and play out from the back, and if Spurs stop us, then during the game we need to work that out. We need to take time. And it's like, that's not how it works. Like, so it was just ridiculous. Like, that's what got me quite frustrated with the match. But then having that turnaround was incredible.
Yeah. And Stu, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like everyone, I was frustrated we weren't, getting the goal, and we were dominating it so much. And I think I said after about 50 or 60 minutes in the UAE Spurs WhatsApp group, I was like, we're justice when we score a last-minute winner. This was at 0-0, so I'm not going to take any credit for thinking we'd do that when we were 1-0 down in injury time. And as you said, the football gods couldn't let us lose that game. And the one thing I have to say that I think Ange is fantastic for instilling the belief in the squad was, as time was ticking by and things were getting more and more desperate, we did not resort to start hoofing the ball long, just whack it in the area and see what happens. We still played the way he wants us to play. And I thought that was fantastic. As well as Richarlison scoring, not taking off his shirt and getting booked,
Yes.
which I think already there was, fantastic effort by Ange. And the mentality of the team was straight away, get the ball back to the center circle. We want to win this.
Yeah.
Another thing, talking about players not getting booked, how many bookings do we get? There's some like 13, 14 bookings in the game. We must have had about 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Kuti, yet again, did not get booked. Everyone else did. Everyone else was losing their mind, complaining to the referee. No. But the one thing, I heard Ange say in his press conference that he timed his substitutions late, knowing that there'd be 10 minutes extra.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm calling BS on that. I was getting really frustrated after 60 minutes, even before they scored with Kulu, because he didn't seem to have the pace to exploit, because there was so much space to exploit to the left back.
Yeah.
And the constant cutting back and refusing to cross with the right foot. So again, justice that I was made to look a fool when he hammers in the winner with his right foot. But yeah, I mean, what a game. What a game. Fantastic.
Yeah, man.
In the law of averages, though, Romero's got to kind of revert to type. So is he due like a triple red card, if that's a thing?
North London derby,
he's going to just go through three different players or something and just get a triple red. It'll be a brand new thing for us. But absolutely incredible. And last week we had that guest on from a Sheffield United fan, Ollie, who was awesome, and he told us our threat's going to come from the long throw. Watch out for this guy. What happens? Long throw. Sheffield United score off it. What else did he predict? He said, we suck at playing out the back. So if you push us on the high press, we will give you the ball back and you'll score a goal. And that's exactly how we got our winner as well.
That's not fair, Jim. It's not fair.
Oh, it's not fair. We're not allowed
that.
to press. We're not allowed to press. But Ollie was spot on with everything he said that would happen, didn't he? And I'm just sorry to Ollie that your predictions came true for your own sake as you came listening, but he was a great guest. Absolutely incredible. But could we? I think is kind of the next question. Are we getting ahead of ourselves here, Dan? Could we?
We could. We could. We could. I'm not going to say no. I think we could.
Did you love Ange's response to? Everyone put the quotes of Conte's. When Conte was asked about Tottenham's fans getting excited when we'd won 3 games in advance for him, and they put it next to Ange's. Conte was like, no, this is a process and we're actually really shit and the players aren't actually good enough yet. So don't get carried away. We've got so far to go and I don't have a good enough squad. I need more money. And it was just such a miserable dialogue. Whereas Andrew's like, go and have fun, get carried away, just celebrate because that's what football's all about. Literally polar opposite approaches to that question. But yeah, so Si, could we?
I said we could. Will we? We might. I'm just, we could. Why not?
Why not? Let's just
fuck it.
Just live in the dream. Let's just enjoy it.
We haven't had this type of football, this type of atmosphere, this type of positivity in the ground for 4.5 years, maybe
more.
5 years. Peak Poch was the last time. I think I was saying to you and Johnny yesterday when we met up pre-game. The Man U game I was excited for. First game of the season, new manager, so that was a natural excitement. This is the first time I can remember for a long time making my way to the ground, meeting you guys and being really excited about seeing that team coming out onto the pitch. Really excited about seeing the type of football we're going to play. It was just the first time that I can remember for, like I said, 4 or 5 years that feeling has been there. And the atmosphere around is just full of positivity at the moment. So, yeah, we could. We could certainly. I mean, you're looking now. Top 4 is a definite possibility with the way that Man United have started. Liverpool ain't looking great. Liverpool are there for the taking in a couple of weeks' time, I think. If you look at the way that Wolves played against them yesterday, so are there going to be that many teams above us? Well, we'll find out in the next couple of weeks. The Arsenal and Liverpool game will tell us a lot, won't it?
Well, yeah, I agree, and I think the one thing that we have advantage of, we've discussed it many times, is not having Europe. That puts us in such a strong position. But the other thing is suddenly our bench looks really good. If we just add a centre-back in January, and Ange said one of the reasons we let Sanchez go is something about preparing for January with the funds. So basically what he's saying is now we're already looking at the centre-back to bring them in early January. Everywhere else in the pitch looks well stocked now. Bentancur's coming back as well.
Yeah.
Do you think, Johnny, based on that performance, one of the people that came on was Brennan Johnson. How do you think he looked? And do you think Kulu might see his place, under, I want to say threat, because it's healthy competition for places, it feels like, and an option to rotate. But
well, that's what you want. It's don't want to be talking positively too much about our greatest rivals, but obviously that's what Arteta's been trying to do over Arsenal as well, isn't it? I mean, to have kind of 2 players the goalkeeper is the obvious example. You can't think why did they bring him in when they've got somebody who's kind of pushing for the England number one spot. And in fairness, that's what Ange is doing as well. And to have Johnson, like another player with huge pace going down the right hand side, I think that Decky's been a little bit unfairly criticised. I mean, he's come out. Obviously, we were all talking about the stats regarding his running before this match, and then clearly he comes up and he hits the winner there in the 100th minute yesterday. So I still think he's probably been a little bit overlooked in what he's doing well. I think he's not quite at the level he was when he was first kind of arrived, and we pushed on towards the Champions League that end of that season. But I can only raise Kulusevski's game with the arrival of Johnson, and whichever one of them's on the bench are going to come on and make an impact. But going back to what Sai was saying there about positivity, I thought there was another really interesting quotation from Basuma, who's clearly somebody who's come out of the wilderness with an incredible reputation coming into Tottenham the summer before last. And he said, I love my club, I love my teammates, I love our fans, I love the stadium, I just love Spurs. It's like, you know, like, and this is like a few months after the whole Conte Southampton thing. It's like, what a change. And it's like, but I don't want to get carried away, but when we look at the bookies and the odds on the way back yesterday, like, we are actually fourth favourites for the title now.
What?
They're yeah. I mean, okay. Well, we're that means we're favourites.
Only fourth.
Yeah. Sorry, well,
Jim's lumping on. He's lumping on. He's got a mortgage. It's remortgaged.
I've already put it on Twitter. It's between us, Brighton, and City, and people are laughing at the idea of Brighton. But I think they're dark horses for that title challenge.
Good.
Yeah. I don't know about the Europe, maybe putting a spanner in the works for them, but yeah, I'd be really, really confident we're going to get in the Champions League. I know it's only 5 games in, but the change already is incredible, and
it is.
And I do think that extra time on the training ground is going to be massive. I'm really, really confident about that, to be honest with you.
Well, but on the Brighton squad depth, I think they will be neck and neck with us all the way. They rotated 5 players against Man United and battered them. I don't want to go down a different team this match, but and De Zerbi is just incredible. But anyway, Stu,
not as good as Ange.
Not as good as Ange. No, if the unthinkable ever happened and Ange took a job at Real Madrid or something in 3 years' time, De Zerbi would be the man I'd want. I think to replace him. He's the only one I can think of. I'd obviously rather keep Ange for the next 20 years and see him as the new Bill Nick, you know, that kind of image of him with a statue outside. But anyway, Stu getting really carried away after 5 games. Stu,
that's where you want to be. That's where you want to be, Jim.
That is.
Already talking statues. I love it.
Yes, statues after how many minutes is that? 450 minutes of football. Oh God, guys! Stu, in terms of the most, who's man of the match for you? I guess in that sense, because there's 2 players that stand out for me, but I want to hear from you on that.
I think it's a tough. And before I start talking about that, remember De Zerbi was my first choice with Ange second back in March. So
he was. They're 2 very, very, very good managers.
But I'm obviously chuffed a bit. So we got Ange. I mean, I could listen, as Dan said, I could listen to his press conferences for hours. Loved the bloke.
Yeah.
Going back to the game, it's a tough one. I thought Basuma was immense, absolutely immense as always. I don't know how he's able to do it, but he's able to get the ball off the centre back with someone literally on his shoulder, and he just drifts away from him every single time without the other bloke being ever able to get a tackle in. It's a skill, and then just moves on with it. And it seems like there's the parting of the Red Sea. There's no one ever in front of him, and there's just space to run into. It's incredible. Matt Maddison, I thought, played amazingly. I also want to say about Kulu, referring to what Johnny said. Kulu was in my bad books because he was at fault for the goal, in my opinion, and his lack of crossing with his right foot was doing my head in. But I watched it again this morning, and he does an incredible amount of tracking back, which helps the defense. So, I think that often does get overlooked. I think Johnny's spot on with that.
And Stu, if you look at the heat map of the average positions of players yesterday, even with the amount of tracking back he did, he averaged the furthest forward out of the whole of the front line by miles.
Yeah.
So that just shows the amount of work he's putting in.
Oh,
No, exactly. It's incredible. It's as I said, in the heat of the moment, I was getting frustrated and upset. But when you look at it with the cold light of day, and especially when you've won, you've got to give him his credit. But I love Udogie, and maybe it's the Italian influence.
Have you got some Italian connections, Stu? You don't seem to mention that very often.
Yeah. Stu's always flexing about his beautiful Italian wife, and it's always this thing that he does. So
she's not so keen on the Dutch side, though. I've heard.
No, not at all, or the English. To be fair. But I think it was Udogie, wasn't it? They got the ball off for the second goal.
Yeah. Won it back on that left-hand side.
Yes, he just, he was at the back, then he was at centre-back, he was, left back in midfield. I thought he was wonderful as well. So I think it's hard to give anybody man of the match. They were just all brilliant.
They were good.
Jim, man of the match for me was Maddison for feigning cramp.
Oh, that was so good.
The time wasted
after
the second goal. He's just sat there with his leg in the air, looking at their centre half, basically giving it a wake. Look.
The squad really believe they're just better than everyone else. And I love it because they're like that. They're just so confident they can just take the piss out of anyone because we're good enough to do it. And that's, But Dan,
one last thing, sorry. How great was it if you compare yesterday and the substitutions that Ange made with the Milan game?
Oh, mate.
Oh, my God, yeah. I saw this.
Yeah.
Like, who was it? Who didn't Royale come on for? Who was it? It was a striker came off.
We brought on Sanchez, didn't he?
I brought on Sanchez for a striker, didn't he?
But we had to get a goal. Whereas Ange was like, we'll have one centre back and everybody else get forward.
Oh, yeah. It was chalk and cheese. It was so...
Yeah.
Dan, what about you? Is there... I'm interested to see if there's like a certain cult around a certain player out in the Australia as well, with everything. I see you got Heung-min Son mug, but is there anyone kind of taking the star for you?
I would actually probably say the player that stood out for me was Kulusevski. And I think a lot of that down to his work rate throughout the whole game. Because I think that's what I was noticing through it, that it's still not 100% clicking for him in terms of, when he's sort of on the ball. But like he was just everywhere. And I love that that finish at the end. To do it, what is it, 12th minute of injury time, whatever we're in then. Home stadium, a game that it's not must win, but it's like setting us on a pretty good path to get this win here. Yeah. And I think that is pretty impressive to get it there and finish. And I know it went through the leg, so you could save it like there, but that was he's determined. Like, he doesn't care. I really like his overall attitude and everything as well. And I think that you just get the impression that he's really sort of down to earth, really, really humble guy as well. And I think that knowing that, I think if he's out of form, he's going to really still at least be putting in and not let his head drop and not sort of worry too much if he's not scoring, he's not getting assists or that sort of thing. I just love his general attitude, and I think that really sort of rubs off on the players around him too.
Yeah. I think it sums up how well the team played that we haven't really touched on the fact, I think Van de Ven had his best performance in the Spurs shirt, and that is coming from a high bar already. Vicario, once again, like, I don't even have to think about the goalkeeper, and that's always, as you say, that cheesy thing. It's like, a sign you've got a great keeper is you just forget they're there. And there's another really good stop as well, I thought, on that one-on-one where they probably in another day. If Hugo was between the sticks, more likely than not, I think we might. I don't want to start bringing out other players who aren't even the team. Sorry, that's wrong. And the other player was Sarr. Like, this guy just gets every week. It's like he can't get better this fast, and every week it's like he layers 10% on top of who he was the week before, and just something a bit. He was just striding around the pitch, like just like gliding past players. And he's such a good player. So excited. Does Bentancur even get in the team, guys? Does last season's Bentancur get in the team ahead of Sarr's performance yesterday, sorry.
I think so.
You think still? Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm getting a bit excited.
Because we're doing this after every game, like going basically through the entire the whole team, whether they're subs or starters, and I think Solomon also deserves a mention too, because like I think what Stu was saying actually before in the preview pod, like he's carrying the threat that Sonny used to, that Sonny isn't doing so much. Like he's really direct. He's obviously really pacey. He's really adventurous and taking on players. It's just like he may not have the sort of the glamour, and obviously he didn't have the price tag, which is even better. But when he's been now 2 starts in a row, I think he's been a fantastic signing as well. So they are, like you keep saying, Jim, the options we've got up at the front line is now, it's really exciting.
It's amazing
too.
I kind of wanted to steal something from Dan's last pod, actually. I think which is so good. They did the Spurs volleyball 11, not 11. How many players are in a volleyball team?
5.
5. But I thought that was very good, and it's a good debate. But so many good performances. It was. So, is there anything else for you to discuss? One of the things I did want to say is Richarlison again. The celebration, you touched on it, guys, but that for me showed a massive change in character. The way that it kind of suddenly felt like you've gone from celebrating in a bit of a like overly emotional way that shows you're not quite in control of your emotions to like stone cold face of like, yeah, that was part of the plan. Not getting too carried away, straight back, put the ball in the centre circle, let's go again. Like it was a very different reaction since he's come out and said, look, I am struggling with the mental pressures of all this. I think that's been, and I'm going to go get some help with it. So yeah, I thought that was another highlight.
I love the fact that it was a really solid goal for him as well. It didn't go off his backside, didn't clip him on the heel and go in. That header, bullet header. Perisic's corner was lovely. Bullet header, absolutely great goal for him to score. Great goal for him to score. And the way that the team got round, I think we mentioned at the start, the way the team got round him afterwards, when they went to celebrate in front of the South Stand, it just shows how together this team. You're starting to see the cohesiveness of a unit of people coming together with the same beliefs, and they're putting the collective need of the team before their individual needs, which is absolutely the foundation of what Ange wants that team to be.
Did you see some comments? Sorry, John. Go ahead.
No. Sorry. You go ahead, and I'll hop in after.
No, I was going to say, did you see Sonny's comments about that he'd been thinking all week on how to help Richarlison? And I just thought, one, it just shows that the people who are doubting that Sonny was going to be a good captain, he is made for the job. And I find it incredible he wasn't part of the leadership group previously. Yeah. And again, as you said, Jim, the fact he was the one pushing Richarlison to get deployed, you just see that he's a great captain. He's created, together with Ange and everyone else, created this team spirit that is,
it's amazing.
It's going to take us who knows where.
Isn't someone say the entire leadership team from last year is now in the bench or not featuring at all in the squad, and every single player over 30 is no longer in our starting 11 in our squad. So it just shows how much we've overhauled the team. Taking credit for it.
Have you put some work in there, Jim?
Yeah, we know he listens in.
Hotline.
Yeah, we know you listen in, Ange. You're one of our. For some reason, it's something like 60% of our listeners are now in Australia. So I reckon Ange's VPN is one of those. So we know you're tuning in. Another topic. Unless there's anything else in this game, like I was just
going to say about I was watching an interview after the game on Spurs play, Brennan Johnson, and it's just like what Si was saying there about the togetherness. And this is a lad who's literally come in because of the international break. I think he's had 2 days training with his new teammates, and he's like literally like he's doing all the referencing them by their nicknames, and he's talking about them with such excitement. He seems like a really articulate, quite a smart lad too, which is really good to see. But like just his investment already, and how excited he is to be there, it's really palpable. Just like in a 5-minute interview, I thought, wow, that's like again, it's going back to previously. We've got the sort of antithesis of that as the Tanguy situation, and we are now bringing in players who really the personality is a massive amount of their attitude. The kind of player they are, the kind of person they are is really key to that, and I think that's obviously a huge part also of what we're seeing in terms of that spirit. I
think as well, Johnny, if he controls the ball in training like he did for that offside goal where he brought it out of the air without breaking stride, we've got a player there, mate, I tell you.
Tell
Well,
you,
that
Yeah.
is some skill. Over his shoulder, down on the tips of his toe,
Yeah.
and bang. And
Well,
I didn't even see how far. They didn't show the lines on Match of the Day last night either. I don't know how far offside he was. He
was
didn't
off.
look offside. He was offside, but
He
he
was
didn't know
close.
that at the time. And to bring the ball out of the air like that and finish like the way he did, we got a player there without a doubt.
I kind of feel. Oh, go on, sorry, Stu, you go first, mate.
Okay, did you see in the same interview that he referenced watching our previous games? So
That's
it
right.
made me think how long we've been talking to him, because
Yeah,
I can't imagine he just sits down at home and decides to watch our games for fun, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Does anyone else think he needs to start against Arsenal and Liverpool just because of his pace, knowing that they're going to come to attack us? And like, I don't think we have anyone else. My fear with sticking with Kulusevski, and this is a weakness of our team, I notice, we have little pace on the counter at the moment. It feels like Son's lost a couple of yards. He's still quite quick. Richarlison's not exactly, he's not Brennan Johnson for us. I just find that in that kind of game, it's going to be an end-to-end, having someone there who's just going to blitz it up the pitch. And I feel for Kulu, but isn't this about options and just using... And Ollie, who was on the Sheffield United podcast last week, was mentioning how Kulusevski as a technical player is better against teams on the low block, like Sheffield United. But when someone at Liverpool or Arsenal playing against you, you probably want to consider a really fast counter-attack. But I'm interested in your guys' thoughts. Dan, what do you think? Would you stick? Go on.
I would stick with Kulusevski, I think, at the moment, because I think Brennan Johnson is going to come off the bench and play a role in both of those games. But I feel like after yesterday, it would be pretty rough to drop Kulusevski at this stage. I'd say maybe a little bit further down the track, then I think we might see more of those, different games, different options coming into play once Brennan Johnson's had a little bit more time to sort of bed in. But I think this also kind of, to me, plays into what pretty much everyone here was talking about before, about like just the culture shifting around in the team a little bit. And we've gone from sort of thinking that football needs to be played by arseholes and managed by arseholes.
Yeah.
And it's like, we've got a manager who's a nice guy. We've got a captain who's a really nice guy. And I think like we're getting players in who are generally also nice as well. But we have a couple of exceptions, like our psychopath Romero at the back and those sort of things. But overall, I think it's like, I can see that even if one of them did, have to drop to the bench and start, it feels like there is that togetherness that I don't think it's going to then result in, long-term issues. And it could just be, very much a case like, all right, you're starting this week, all right, Brennan is starting next week, the week after. Like, I feel like we're going to get into a place where it might be a little bit more fluid like that once Brennan has had like a bit more time to settle in.
Yeah, I think, maybe you're going to be right. She's going to be seen more. But then Emerson Royale had his best performance of the season and scored our equaliser. And then everyone was expecting him to start. And it's like, no, Pedro's in. Ange seems so ruthless of just like, whatever is going to increase my odds of winning the game is happening. I don't have time to be your best buddy. But they all seem to love him anyway because of the way in which he handles them. It's a really interesting... I don't know anyone else in football who's got that middle ground of being ruthless but keeping the people he drops on side. Like Jose and Conte are just arseholes about it. And they're just like, well, you don't train hard enough or you're not good enough, and just call them out in public, and then they just lose them. And you're just seeing it now with Sancho and Man United, just being like, well, you're not good enough. Go away. I'm the manager. You respect me and apologise in public. Whereas Andrew just drops someone and they'll go, that's fine. I'll fight for my spot. I understand. Bigger picture, team. It's a very different dynamic. Anyone, do we preview the Arsenal game a little bit? I know on Wednesday we're doing our official preview with a gooner potentially on the pod. I know it's a bit dirty, but we'll try find someone who's not too shouty. But yeah, do we want to do some predictions
we
for that
could
game?
be not shouty back at him, if I'm honest.
Yeah. But let's just do some predictions on that. What do you guys reckon? You can give me any changes to the lineup and your score prediction on the Arsenal game next week. Johnny, actually Stu, I haven't asked you anything in a while. Go on.
I agree that I think Kulu keeps his position. And the reason I would do it as well as, dropping him after scoring a last-minute winner, is the fact that I think it's important not to let them score early. And I think Kulu does so much helping out in the defense, and closing down that space, that Johnson might not be as good at that. And I think after 60, 65 minutes, when legs start getting weary also at their end, bringing on Johnson, his pace would be, pretty scary. So I think this is probably a better game for Son also to keep his position rather than, as Ollie was telling us, Richarlison was made for Sheffield United. I think this is one where Son will have more space. So I think he'll probably stick with the same team, to be honest. It's Arsenal away, so as much as I'd love us to win, I'm going to go and pray that we don't lose. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw, because apparently we scored 2 goals every game minimum. So
fair enough, Johnny.
I agree with everything that Stu's just said. Apart from the result, I'm actually quite optimistic, considering.
Oh my God!
Negative Nelly.
Wow.
Negative Nelly.
Yeah, what happened to negative Nelly? How am I the negative Nelly?
I prefer it when you.
What's going on, Johnny boy?
If Johnny's prediction had come right, we'd have had 0 points yet, but we'd have had 5 spirited performances, but no.
So
no
maybe
points.
I can predict something positive then.
Yeah.
Do you want me to predict an Arsenal win?
I definitely believe in curses now.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with hopefully not the same. Well, I don't care actually how the goals. Remember when we came back and won 3-2, 2-0 down a few years ago. That's probably about 10 years ago now, and Wenger threw that water bottle, which was quite amusing. I'm going to go 3-2 Tottenham, because we are just such a threat going forwards, because we will be able to. It's not going to be a low block against Arsenal at the Emirates. So, yeah, I think it'll be the same team. I think our bench is really a game-changing, and we've got the best manager in the world. So Pep can take a run and jump. We've got Ange, and 3-2 Tottenham.
Nice.
Nelly's
that
dead.
is very. Nelly's dead, and Nelly will be straight back if we lose against Arsenal. But no, not about that. Si, what's your predictions? Any changes as well?
No, I'll go with the guys there. I don't think any changes. I think he keeps the starting lineup, and I think the Kulu question. I think up against Zinchenko, we're going to need someone there who's quite strong. Kulu keeps the ball well as well. He might not have the pace of Johnson, but he does hold the ball up well. Yep. And I think he can keep Zinchenko in a little bit of check early on in the game, because if we don't, we could be in the spot of bother, because he's I don't like to big up any of their players, but he's a cracking left back. Score wise, my head says it'll be a draw. My heart says 2-1 Spurs.
Okay, Dan, what about you?
I think the same team, and I think like what Stuart said before about like Brennan Johnson coming in to Zinchenko late in the game. That's a terrifying scenario, to think about. So I think we'll probably play it that way, and I'm pretty confident with our starting 11 against theirs. I think the worst thing a team can do against us now is come out and play against us, because what I've really noticed too is that even though we're having a lot of shots, say in the Sheffield game, and we didn't convert a lot of them, in general, when we are playing on the break now, given that we've got Basuma and Maddison in there, who are just like, the ball is just magnetized to them. I think we're actually doing pretty well when we are breaking and having that result in a chance. So I do feel like there are going to be a lot of chances in this game, and I'm thinking probably like a 3-2 as well for us. I think we're going to win. I'm feeling pretty confident, and even if we don't, it's like, it's not the end of the world to lose away. So I think that we are going to go for it. I don't think we're necessarily going to sit back once we get into the game. I think we are going to go out and try and win it. So, which is what I would love to see us do now. So I think 3-2.
They've got a very fragile fan base, Arsenal. I feel like if we lose, it's kind of, there's enough goodwill in the bank now where it's like, even if we lost 4-1, but we went for it, it's kind of like, oh, well, it's super early into this journey and we expected these results, and we'll probably get at least a point against Liverpool next week and we're way ahead of schedule. Whereas they lose, it's like, disaster. We were meant to kick on from last year and challenge for the title. There's going to be another year of not winning anything. We've spent 600 million quid and we're 6 years into this project, and we've had so many stickmen drawings from Arteta now. We should be winning something. And we're still not there. So I think they'll have a meltdown. But to be fair to the Goons and us, this is a double compliment for North. I think we've got the 2 best home atmospheres in the league this season. from the games played so far. They've gone from having the worst, arguably consistently in the division, to it's amazing what just consistent attacking football does to an entire fan base. Theirs is incredibly cringe. It's a kid's birthday party every week, it feels like, but it's still very good. And they sing a song called North London Forever, even though they're from South London. There's so many things wrong with their fans, but to be fair to them, it will be rocking. And our away fans are fantastic, so I think it's going to be hostile, intense. It will just be chaos. There'll be a red card or just some manic, something's going to go crazy in that game, some spat on the touchline, something's going to kick off. We'll be 2-0 down at half time. And I think the fact they played midweek will really show in the second half, and we haven't. We'll bring on Johnson. We'll bring on the big guns off the bench, and I think we'll just, out of nowhere, get back to draw it 2-2, and that'll really break them, whereas we'll feel like a win to us. So that's my thoughts.
It's my hometown team that are playing midweek, so I'm hoping that they do us a favour and maybe hurt a few while they're at it.
Yeah, you should try to get a ticket to that and wear your Spurs shirt as well. I don't think we had time to discuss the other topic, but we'll save it for another pod, which was, we were going to dive into, it's a good one, but it's like, with Ange and the influence he had on Spurs, who was the biggest influence on a club's culture? Is it the manager? Is it the owners? Or is it the players? Because you look at how Spurs have changed so much under Ange. You look at how Arsenal have changed. They hated their owners 5 minutes ago, and now they seem to love them. Like, it's interesting to know, is it a mixture, or is one stand out or the other? I think we'll do that on another episode. But last thing I want to say is Dan's podcast, A Bit Spursy. I really, really recommend it. And I'm not just saying this. We reached out to Dan because I was strolling through looking for new content. And I was like, this is actually really funny. Dan, he does it with a guy called Barney. It's just a bit of a different take on Spurs podcasts, where it's like, it's just got a really funny element to it. But if you comment in the section from your pods group, we'll pin it into the comment section of this YouTube video, so people can find you and Barney on your channel as well.
Cool.
So yeah,
great, amazing.
Cool. Thanks. Well, up the Spurs, and looking forward to being back on Wednesday and then smashing the Goons on the weekend.
Go on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.
Go on, you
Spurs.